Hello everyone, Stakui here, and let's go ahead and pick up on that tutorial where we left off. Now, if you're going to choose Portugal, as I have done in the start, and it is highly recommended that you do so as either Portugal, Castile, or the Ottomans as a first-time game, then this is the screen that you're going to see first. The initial thing that pops up is going to give you a detailed history of your country, at least for the past several decades, or even hundreds of years, depending on what it is that you are covering. The next tab is going to show your nation's religion with a couple more details. Now, we can go in further detail for a religious tutorial later on, and we will do so, but for now you can see that your nation is Catholic, and the bonuses that it provides are +1 tolerance of the true faith and -1 tolerance of heretics. In shorter terms, what that essentially means is that if you have a county that is Catholic, that is -1 unrest because of tolerance of the true faith. The more tolerance towards the true faith you have, the better. The next tab that you're going to see is going to be the government tab. The government tab is going to give you a little bit of detail about the type of government that your country is. In Portugal's case, it starts as a monarchy. This means that its ruler is in place for life, no matter how good or bad their skills are, and that their succession is dependent on having an heir. If you look over on the left-hand side of the screen here, you will see that your current ruler is Infante Pedro. And in that case, that's not actually a ruler. That is the regency for the ruler, as Portugal starts off in a rare type of government that is a regency. A regency is what you get when a nation's ruler dies before their heir is actually of age. In this case, of age means 15 years old. So when Afonso actually turns 15, which in this case, as you can see, the regency ends on the 15th of January 1447, that is when your ruler is going to become an actual ruler versus the random stats of the Regency Council that you get here. And the last tab that is going to show you is going to be the Environment tab. This is essentially just going to give some detail about the region, some of the fluff. It is going to explain some of the interdynamics of what it is that you are likely going to be facing, and this is the environment of Europe as a whole in 1444. So let's go ahead and look at this from left to right and what it is that we see. The first thing that you're going to see here is going to be your Treasury. The Treasury is going to show not only how much money you currently have in the bank, but simultaneously how much you are making either in profit or losing each month, depending on where you are financially. The next thing here is Manpower. Manpower is going to show you both your maximum amount of manpower, the current manpower that you actually have, which in this case is 8,947, while your maximum is 17,646. And you currently gain 153 manpower each month. Manpower is one of the most crucial details in this game. You can have as much money as you possibly want to hire mercenaries, but when that runs out, well, there's only so many men that you actually have available in order to fight a war. And when your army, which is here, takes casualties, in this case it has 14,000 men, if it loses 3,000 of those men, then this manpower is going to reduce from 8,947 down to 5,947. And it will heal by 153 manpower each month until it reaches that maximum level. You cannot go higher than that unless there is a kind of event or something that will temporarily give you additional manpower. And what you can see below this is the varying ways that manpower is broken down. The base value that each nation is going to start with is 10,000 manpower, and then depending on the development and details of their provinces, this will add additional manpower to that number. There will be more manpower that can be added based off different ideas that you pick up, national ideas, etc. There's many different bonuses in the game that will either take away or provide more manpower. And then below this, you can see the modifiers that are going to determine how quickly that manpower recovers. Currently, you recover at 153 manpower each month, and the speed at which you recover manpower has been modified by 10.7% by virtue of 10% from nobility and 0.7% from your army tradition. We'll expand on both of these things here later, but please note that there are many other bonuses that can increase your recovery rate. The next thing that you can see on this list are sailors. Sailors are effectively manpower, but for ships. When ships do any kind of mission or engage in combat or anything the like, then they are going to lose sailors and recover a certain value each month. As you can see, it says that we gain 52 each month with a maximum of 6,235, and we use 0 sailors on missions. If you have your ship selected and you assign them a mission, which you can select a mission here, the only one that is currently available is Protect Trade. If you assign Protect Trade to a region, which we can do so here by sending to one of these varying different trade nodes, then what this is going to do is use sailors each month. If you are using more sailors than you actually recover, then eventually you will run out and your ships will falter. So this is something to keep in mind. The next thing that you can see on this list is stability, and stability is one of these crucial things in the game that affects essentially everything, as it provides modifiers for unrest, for trade, for prestige, for everything that you can think of in the game. The short of it is that the more stable you are, the better, and things work on a sliding scale. On the high end, you have a maximum value of +3 stability. On the low end, -3 stability. And if we open up details here, then you can actually see this sliding scale right here. As you can see, there are a lot of varying bonuses that are provided by stability on this scale, as each point that you get is going to increase your global trade power, it is going to increase the rate at which you detect foreign spies, it's going to decrease your unrest, increase your taxes, increase your religious strength, it is going to decrease your corruption, and it will increase the rate at which institutions spread. Institutions are a thing that we will cover here at a later time. On the reverse, each level of negative stability have far more drastic negative effects than a point of positive stability. What this means is that there is far, far, far more value in investing your points that you're going to have in at least keeping yourself at 0 versus there is from raising from 0 to 1. It is always better to raise from -1 to 0 than it is from 0 to 1 as needed. The next step that you can see on here is corruption, and corruption is one of those values that are going to affect effectively everything, as each point of corruption is going to drastically increase the cost of everything. Inflation on the economic side, which we will approach here at a later point, is something that is going to affect the costs of building and troops. But corruption is something that not only affects the rate at which you have to spend money, but simultaneously it is going to affect the PowerPoint costs for literally every single thing in the game, meaning that it is a value that you always want to keep low. The way that corruption increases is by having low religious unity and simultaneously having overextension, which you will gain as you conquer provinces. This is something to keep in mind in the future, and we will address. The next thing that you're going to see on this list is prestige, and prestige is something that not nearly as many people that play this game truly understand the importance of. It works on a sliding scale from 0 to 100 that is constantly increasing or decreasing to a state of equilibrium depending on the modifiers that you have. In this case, you can see that our current prestige is 4.96, but it is decreasing by 0.25 yearly. The more bonuses and things that we get, the more conquering that we do, and the more ideas that we unlock, and different events that will increase prestige gain and the rates, that is something that is going to help us drastically in the future. The short of it is this: you want to keep your prestige as high as possible because there are many, many different factors that are affected by prestige. If you have maximum value prestige, then this is going to be something that gives huge bonuses to global trade power, morale of armies, morale of navies, foreign spy detection, yearly legitimacy. It's going to improve your relations. It's going to decrease the amount of impact that your aggressive expansion has. It will decrease the cost of embracing institutions, and it will increase the loyalty of your varying estates. On the reverse, if you go into the negatives of prestige, then it is something that is going to have a drastic effect on your country, as it is going to hamper you rather than help you. The next thing on here is legitimacy, which for kingdoms is essentially another modifier just like prestige. When you have maximum legitimacy, as we actually do now at 100, you can see that it provides the maximum bonuses of -2 unrest, +1 tolerance of the true faith, +1 tolerance of heretics and heathens. It gives us 1 point of diplomatic reputation. It increases the income that we get from vassals. It increases our maximum absolutism, which again, we will cover that at a later time. and it increases the rate at which nobles are actually loyal to us. This is something that again is a modifier for estates that we will examine in the future. The short of it is this: you want to keep your prestige and your legitimacy as high as you can at all times, as these bonuses are huge not only for your own country's internal stability, but simultaneously this is something that is good for maintaining loyalty within the estates and affecting other aspects of gameplay. The final step that you can see on here is power projection, and power projection is one of those things kind of like prestige and legitimacy, except that you specifically want to maintain at least a value above certain numbers in order to get bonuses, that being 25 and 50 points. You earn power projection by taking counties and essentially doing things to embarrass your rivals. The more power projection that you can accrue, the better the bonuses that you get. At 25 power projection, this is something that is going to give you a free military leader that you don't have to pay upkeep on. And the second thing is that once you reach 50 power projection, this will provide you +1 admin, diplo, and mill points. And this is something that you want to maintain at all costs, as it is something that is going to provide long-term benefits in having additional points. And speaking of points, these are actually something that you can see immediately below this list. So right here you can see your admin, diplo, and mill points. Each one of these are affected by certain values. Every country is going to automatically gain 3 of each point each month. This is the base value that it cannot go away from. On top of that, you are going to add your ruler skill to it. In this case for admin, our ruler has an admin skill of 4, so that is going to add 4 onto the total, making it 7. The third and fourth final ways that you are going to be able to get these points are going to be based off advisors and simultaneously your power projection, as we spoke of. Advisors are something that if I open up the detailed view of my country here and I go over to my court, then I would be able to recruit an advisor for a certain amount of money each month, and it will provide bonuses ranging from +1 to truly +3, though this can even reach +5 later on if you upgrade said advisor. Each advisor costs a certain amount of money each month and is something that can be very difficult to maintain early on in the game based off how much money you actually have and are producing. The next thing that we're going to do is cover the varying agents. The first one, of course, is merchants, which are going to be the ones that affect your trade. If I go down to the top bottom here on my map mode selector, I can select trade and actually see the varying trade routes around the European continent. Now, trade is something that is going to require an entire video in and of itself, as it is something that the overwhelming majority of players, even to this day, do not seem to really understand. So that is going to get its own dedicated video at a later point. The short of it that you need to know is that the number of merchants that you have is something that is going to affect what it is that you can collect and steer from. You will automatically start collecting from trade in your capital trade province, or home trade province. In this case, our home trade province is Sevilla, and so we are going to automatically collect from trade there. We do not need to send a merchant. What you are going to do, especially in the beginning of the game, is you're going to have your merchants already assigned 2 varying trade nodes that are going to be routing trade from there to preferably your home trade node, if that is something that is feasible. You can see here from the icon that we currently have a merchant that is down in Safi, and we can also see that there is a merchant of ours over here in Tunis by this icon. They are both routing the varying trades of these nodes to the Sevilla trade node. And this is something that for each merchant that we have in a trade node leading to our home, it is going to increase the power of our trade by 10%, making it exceptionally powerful to have more and more merchants. As a trade power, as Portugal, by mid-game, you should have a very, very large trade income. The next agent that you can see on this list are colonists, but we do not have any colonists right now. This is something that when I do have the opportunity to show colonialism and how it is that it works, we will go ahead and cover that. The next detail on here that needs to be spoken about are diplomats. Diplomats you can actually see over here on the right hand side of the screen with their varying names and titles. Now, currently it says that the status of each diplomat is free, but you can only give diplomatic actions through diplomats. You cannot just select 10 countries at the same time and automatically offer each one an alliance, as that is not how that works. Every single diplomatic action, whether it is an alliance, whether it is something that is breaking alliance, whether it is a royal marriage, increasing relations, sending an insult, anything you can think of, these use diplomats. And so the more diplomats you have, the more that you are capable of doing at the same time. The fourth and final agent that you're going to see is your missionary. Your missionary being that is responsible for converting heathens and infidels to your religion. Now, through the game, and depending on your religion and other factors, your missionaries will have different levels of strength. This being dependent both upon your own religion, the religion that they are converting, and simultaneously the different bonuses and values that you have gained through skills. When you are going to use missionaries, this is something that we will explain more when we cover religions, but it is something that can be quite expensive and detrimental, or it is something that can be a great boon depending on the nation that you play and the values that you've chosen. And from these agents and other details, you can actually see them over here on the right-hand side. At the top, you are going to see diplomats that are going to show you each diplomat's name, where they currently are. In this case, they're not being used, so it states that they're free. But if they were in use, then it would exactly tell you that they are, for example, improving relations with France or something along those lines. Below that, you can see merchants, which it will say where they are currently located and how much money they are either collecting or transferring to. It will show you your armies list, which will tell you the amount of men that you have, the name of the army, and when you select that, that is something that will open up the details here on the left-hand side, so it is selectable. It will also show you your navies. You will see any rebel factions, and rebellions and government control are something that we will talk about here at a later time. And it will also show you your current loyalty and influence of your estates. Now let's look at our notifications and what those actually mean. The first thing that you're going to see are anything that are red. Red are things that absolutely are crucial and have to be taken care of immediately. Anything that is yellow are something that are of note, but they aren't necessarily critical as of yet. And green are simply things that are interesting things that you may want to take note of. For example, the fact that you have a free advisor slot, a truce is about to expire, or that there are disputed successions, which successions and governments for monarchy are again a thing that we will need to go in more detail at a later time. Working our way back up the list, you can see that we start the game with Low Crownland. The estates are something in a video that I will cover, and you will see varying different opening moves for estates and crownlands for different countries, and this will be something that will be covered at a later point. The next thing here is Unrest. Unrest is something that will measure the average amount of unrest for a province and what it is increasing by. In this case, the only province that we have that has currently enough unrest that it surpasses our minus unrest is Ceuta. Ceuta is something that is actually located on the North African continent and is an occupied zone by Portugal. You can see that its culture is Moroccan and its religion is Sunni, completely different from our Catholic Portuguese population. And as a result, this is something that is generating unrest, as you can see here in the bottom left. It gives the values that are going to show what it is that unrest is versus the minus unrest. This unrest is going to create a certain percentage chance of a rebellion each month. Or rather, what is going to happen is that it is going to be an increase of 10% each month towards a rebellion. In this case, as you can see, that based off the level of unrest, there is a 2.5% chance every single month that that value of rebellion is going to increase by 10%. When it reaches 100%, this is something that is going to start a rebellion, and 7,000 rebels will appear in the province to try and take it over. The final step, and one of the most crucial things for power projection, are rivals. In this case, this red flag is stating that we have too few rivals, and will pop up if, for example, one of your rivals gets destroyed, or if they simply are not something that you are capable of rivaling because they have grown too strong, or you have grown too strong. You can see that our current rivals are Aragon, Morocco, and Tunis. You will automatically start out each game with rivals having been selected against you. But you yourself have not chosen rivals. You are capable of choosing the exact same rivals that have rivaled you, or if it is in your national interest, you can choose your own rivals. For example, if I don't really care about going to war with Aragon or anything like that, I can swap them out for Granada. But if there are other powers that have rivaled me within my vicinity that I do plan on expanding into, then those are more than likely the territories that I will want to rival. For example, Morocco here, and Tunis. And what I'm going to do when I select this here is that in confirming a rival, you will see exactly what this does. Having a rival that you plan on expanding into is vital, as when you set a nation as a rival, this drastically decreases the cost of taking and doing things against them in comparison to other powers. You will, for example, get 25% more prestige from defeating them in battles. There is no trade efficiency penalties when you embargo them. It increases the rate at which you can construct spy networks in their area, and you have 33% less cost for demanding provinces from them in a peace deal. Meaning if you are going to expand into your rival's territory, you are able to take a lot more land for a lot less because they are your rival. And that right there is the end of this basic little introduction to what the opening screen looks like as a country. You're going to see varying different details depending on what country it is that you play as, but this is generally speaking what it is that you are going to see for the majority of countries, especially for those that you are starting out here as. We will go into more details for the starting moves of Portugal and actually show what combat and other things look like. Let me know in the comments what other things you specifically want a tutorial video on. I'm going to continue to make this tutorial series for Portugal that will show some starting moves and what theoretically you should be doing at the beginning of the game while simultaneously expanding on the different mechanics and what each one means. Let me know what it is that you want to see next down in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and thank you very much for watching. Goodbye, guys.